Hello and welcome, chosen warriors. You move through the world with an effortless allure, a magnetic energy that draws eyes and stirs hearts without you even trying. There's a quiet intensity in the way they watch you, captivated by the way you carry yourself, graceful, confident, and untouchable. They wrestle with their own emotions, a delicate balance between admiration and restraint, knowing that stepping too soon could shatter the respect they hold for you. The air between you is charged, a silent pull that grows stronger with every shared glance, every fleeting moment. But they're patient, understanding that your attention is not something to be taken, it's something to be earned. You never sought this power, yet it lingers around you, undeniable and unyielding, leaving them willing to wait as long as it takes for you to invite them closer. You are a disruption they never saw coming, a quiet storm that shakes their foundation without warning. They tell themselves they're in control, that their thoughts are their own, but the truth is undeniable. You've taken root in their mind, in their senses, in the very air they breathe. The pull is magnetic, primal, something they can't rationalize or escape. Every time you enter the room, the world tilts, and they're left grasping for balance, their heart racing in a rhythm they can't control. It's not just attraction, it's a collision of souls, a force that strips away their defenses and leaves them exposed to truths they've long buried. You are the question they're too afraid to answer, the mirror they're not ready to face, and yet they can't look away. You don't just exist, you consume, and in doing so, you awaken something in them they didn't know was there. They've known control their entire life, mastering the art of restraint, of keeping their emotions in check. But with you, it's different. It's chaos. You're not just a thought in their mind, you're a presence that lingers, a fire that refuses to be extinguished. They try to move through their days as if you don't exist, as if the pull they feel isn't real, but every glance, every fleeting moment in your orbit chips away at their resolve. It's not just desire, it's a craving that runs deeper than they can explain, a need that feels like it's etched into their very being. They tell themselves they're strong enough to resist, that they can keep you at arm's length. But the truth is, they're already lost. You're in their veins, in their heartbeat, in every breath they take, and no amount of distance or denial can change that. They're standing on the edge, caught between fear and longing, knowing that one step closer to you could be their undoing, but also knowing that staying away might destroy them just the same. You sense them before you see them, a quiet energy that hums in the air, brushing against your skin like an unspoken confession. They stay just far enough away to avoid crossing a line, but their presence is undeniable, a shadow that refuses to fade. You don't need to look to know their eyes are on you, tracing the curve of your movements, memorizing the smallest details. It's a tension that lingers, heavy but unspoken, a silent plea that never quite reaches your ears. They are there, always there, hovering on the edge of your world, caught between the desire to step closer and the fear of what might happen if they do. And though they never speak, never act, you feel it as if they had, their longing, their hesitation, their quiet war within themselves. It surrounds you, invisible but undeniable, like a whisper you can't ignore. They orbit you like a moth drawn to the flame, careful not to get too close but unable to stay away. Every move they make feels deliberate, yet cloaked in the guise of chance. A fleeting glance, a subtle shift in your direction, a moment that seems accidental but never truly is. You see the way their resolve falters, the way their hands tremble slightly when they're near, as if holding back takes more strength than they're willing to admit. Their silence speaks louder than their words ever could, each unspoken thought hanging heavy in the air between you. They linger at the edge of temptation, caught in a dangerous game of restraint, their desire tethered by the weight of their own self-control. But you feel it, every ounce of it, the tension, the longing, the hunger they try so desperately to hide. It's in the way their breath hitches when you step closer, in the way their gaze lingers just a moment too long before they look away. They think they're hiding it well, but you've already seen through them. You always do. They stand on the precipice, caught between the unbearable pull of you and the fear of what giving in might unleash. You can see it in the way their shoulders tighten, as if bracing against a storm they can't escape, in the way their hands flex at their sides like they're fighting the urge to reach for you. They don't speak of it, but their silence is deafening, filled with all the words they're too afraid to say. Every glance, every stolen moment, feels like a confession they're trying to swallow, but it lingers in the air between you, heavy and undeniable. When your eyes meet, it's like the world stops, their breath hitching just enough for you to notice before they look away, retreating into their carefully constructed walls. But you see through it, through them. You always have. They are a flame trying not to ignite, a dam holding back a flood, and every second spent in your presence only frays their control further. They think they're hiding it, but the truth is written all over them, in every deliberate movement, every fleeting glance, every shaky breath. They are already burning, and they don't even realize it. Their composure is a fragile mask, every word they speak carefully measured, every movement meticulously restrained. But beneath the surface you can feel the storm brewing, the way their chest rises just a little too sharply, the way their eyes flicker to you and then away, as if looking too long might shatter the delicate balance they're clinging to. They hover on the edge of something dangerous, their hand almost grazing yours, the space between you charged with an electricity that neither of you dares to acknowledge. In that fleeting moment, the world narrows to just the two of you, the air thick with unspoken words and suppressed longing. But then, like a thread pulled too tight, they snap back, retreating into themselves with a sharp inhale, as if even the thought of touching you is too much to bear. You see it, the way they fight, the way they falter, the way they want, but won't. They're terrified of what will happen if they let go, if they let themselves fall, because they know as well as you do that there's no undoing it. Once the line is crossed, there's no turning back, and that terrifies them more than anything. They hold the line, clinging to the fragile threads of their control, but it's unraveling with every second they spend in your orbit. Their restraint is a carefully crafted illusion, but you see the cracks, the way their fingers twitch as if yearning to reach for you, the way their gaze lingers just a moment too long before they force it away. Every breath they take feels heavier, as though the air itself thickens when you're near, pressing against their resolve. They are losing, and they know it, but still, they fight. Because surrender would mean giving in to the chaos, to the fire that you ignite in them. And yet, there's a moment, fleeting but undeniable, where their defenses falter, their walls crumble just enough for you to glimpse the truth. They don't just want to surrender, they're desperate for it. The only question is how long they can hold on before the inevitable happens. They underestimated you, not out of arrogance, but because they had never encountered someone like you before. They thought persistence would wear you down, that desire alone would be enough to breach the distance you keep so carefully. But you are not moved by longing that lacks intention, nor by the quiet ache of someone too afraid to meet you where you stand. You see their struggle, the way they hesitate at the edge of your boundaries, unsure if they should step forward or retreat. And yet, they linger, not because they believe you will bend, but because they are beginning to understand that access to you is not a prize to be taken, but a privilege to be earned. You are not a puzzle to be solved or a challenge to be conquered. You are a choice, one they must rise to meet. And as they stand there, caught between desire and doubt, they begin to realize that the wall they face is not just your boundaries. It is the reflection of their own unpreparedness. Every time they hover on the edge of your space, they feel the weight of their own inadequacy pressing against them. It's not your rejection that stops them. It's the realization that they must become more than what they are to even hope for an invitation. You do not waver, do not shrink beneath the heat of their gaze or the intensity of their yearning, and that unnerves them. They are used to power, to bending the world to their will, but you remain immovable, a force they cannot manipulate or overwhelm. And yet, it's not defiance that draws them closer. It's the quiet strength of your boundaries, the way you demand respect without ever saying a word. Their mind races, caught between the urge to retreat and the desire to rise to your level. They don't just want you, they want to be worthy of you. And that thought, more than anything, terrifies them. Because for the first time, they are faced with something they cannot take. They must earn it, and they are not sure they know how. Their pulse races, their thoughts spiral, but none of it changes the unyielding truth. You are not moved by the chaos they feel. The fire in their chest, the ache in their hands, the way their breath catches every time you're near, it all crashes against the fortress of your resolve, leaving them with nothing but the echoes of their own longing. And so they are forced to confront what they've never had to before, the art of waiting, the strength of restraint, the power of earning what cannot be taken. You are their lesson, their mirror, their reckoning. And though it burns, though it tears at the very fabric of their being, they begin to understand that this ache is not a punishment, it is a transformation. For the first time, they are learning that desire alone is not enough. To have you, they must first become someone who deserves you. Chosen ones, pause for a moment and take action. Subscribe to the channel and share this message with those who need it, for this is your awakening call. In the depths of your being lies a power so vast it can reshape reality itself. You are not here by chance. You are here because the universe recognizes in you a force capable of extraordinary change. Your soul carries within it the seeds of revolution, each action a spark that ignites the flames of transformation. The world doesn't just need your dreams, it needs your courage to turn those dreams into reality. You are a lighthouse in the storm, a beacon of hope in a world hungry for authenticity. Every time you choose to rise, to speak, to act with the full force of your conviction, you create ripples that touch countless lives. This is your time to shine with unrelenting brilliance, to stand in the full power of your purpose. The universe conspires in favor of the brave, those who dare to claim their destiny with both hands open. You are part of a greater awakening, a collective rising of souls who refuse to dim their light. Rise now, chosen one. Your time is here. They try to convince themselves that their world is still intact, that the cracks in their foundation are minor, insignificant. But the truth is undeniable. Your presence has become the fault line, shifting everything they thought was immovable. The life they built, once so solid and predictable, now feels hollow, like a house of cards trembling under the weight of something they can't control. It's not what you do, not even what you say. It's simply you. The way you exist, unapologetic and unbothered, has become a mirror they can't look away from, reflecting everything they've been too afraid to admit. They tell themselves they don't need you, that they can keep going as they always have. But every time they see you, every time their thoughts wander back to you, they feel the undeniable truth pressing against their chest. You are not their undoing. You are the reminder that the life they've built was never truly enough. They tell themselves it's just a phase, that eventually the ghost of you will fade into the background, becoming nothing more than a distant memory. But it doesn't. Instead, you remain, woven into the fabric of their everyday, an invisible thread pulling at the edges of their carefully constructed life. They try to bury you in routine, in the noise of the world, but the silence between moments is where you thrive. You're there in the pause, in the breath they didn't know they were holding, in the way their mind drifts without permission. It's not fair, they think, how someone can take up so much space without even being present. And yet, they can't bring themselves to resent you for it. Because deep down, they know the truth. They don't really want to forget. Even as it tears at the seams of their reality, even as it makes them question everything they thought they wanted, they cling to the way you make them feel alive, even in your absence. No matter how tightly they try to seal the cracks, how fiercely they cling to the illusion of control, you seep through anyway. You're in the air they breathe, in the rhythm of their heartbeat, in the spaces between their thoughts where they thought they could hide from you. The harder they push you away, the closer you seem to come, as if the universe itself is conspiring to remind them of what they refuse to face. It's not just memories of you, it's the feeling, the pull, the undeniable truth they've tried so hard to bury. And yet, Every time they think they've won, that they've finally silenced the echo of you, life finds a way to whisper your name again. It's not coincidence. It's not chance. It's a reminder that some things are too real, too powerful to ever be forgotten. You can feel it building, the way the air between you grows heavier with every passing moment. It's in the way their gaze lingers just a second too long, the way their breath catches when you're near, as though the weight of everything unsaid is pressing against their chest. They are unraveling, slowly but surely, their carefully constructed walls crumbling under the force of what they feel. And you know it's only a matter of time, a fleeting moment, a single spark that will ignite everything they've tried so hard to contain. Maybe it will be a touch that lingers, a whisper that escapes before they can stop it, or the way their eyes betray everything they've been holding back. Whatever it is, you can feel it coming, inevitable as the tide, and when it happens, there will be no going back. They can feel the inevitability of it now, like a storm rolling in on the horizon, impossible to outrun. Every glance, every fleeting touch, every word unspoken is a thread pulling them closer to the edge. Logic tells them to stop, to turn away, to hold on to the life they've built. But something deeper, something primal, urges them forward. The line they swore they'd never cross has all but disappeared, swallowed by the gravity between you. And maybe Sartre was right. Maybe choice is everything. But this doesn't feel like a choice. This feels like gravity, like fate, like the universe itself has conspired to bring them to this moment. They know how it ends. They've known from the start. And yet, knowing doesn't make it any less terrifying or any less exhilarating. You feel the emptiness like a weight pressing against your chest, the kind of absence that doesn't just take up space, it consumes it. They've pulled back, retreated into the safety of their carefully constructed walls, but you can still feel them there, lingering in the shadows of your thoughts. You know why they've gone, why they've convinced themselves that distance is the answer, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. The truth is, they're running, not from you, but from the way you make them feel, from the mirror you hold up to their carefully hidden truths. They think if they stay away long enough, if they drown themselves in logic and reason, they can erase you, but you know better. Some connections can't be severed, no matter how far they run, no matter how much space they try to put between you. And deep down, you know they feel it too, the pull, the ache, the inevitability of what they're trying so hard to escape. No matter how far they run, no matter how many walls they build, you remain. You linger in the spaces they can't control, the quiet mornings before the world wakes, the moments when their mind drifts, the dreams they can't escape. They tell themselves that time and distance will erase you, that they can outlast the pull, but all they're doing is delaying the inevitable. Because the truth isn't in the miles between you, it's in the way their heart betrays them every time they think of you. It's in the way your presence has become a part of them, woven into their very being, impossible to untangle. They can try to run, to forget, to bury what they feel, but deep down they know. This isn't something they can outrun. This isn't something they can erase. It's already a part of them, and it always will be. They can cling to their defenses, to the fragile scaffolding of logic and reason they've built around themselves, but you have already become the fracture in their foundation. You are not the storm they feared. You are the light cutting through it, illuminating every shadow they've worked so hard to conceal. You don't just unsettle them, you dismantle them, piece by piece, exposing the raw, unguarded truth they've spent a lifetime avoiding. In your presence, their carefully constructed mask slips, revealing the vulnerability they've fought to bury. They can tell themselves they're strong enough to stay away, to resist, but deep down, they know the truth. It's not you they're running from. It's the version of themselves they see when they're with you, the one they aren't sure they're ready to face. They see you as both a promise and a reckoning, a glimpse of what life could be if they dared to shatter the chains they've wrapped around themselves. But the question burns inside them. Are they strong enough to step into the light you offer, to meet you as an equal rather than a shadow of who they could be? The truth is, wanting you was never the hard part. It's the transformation you demand of them, the raw courage it takes to become someone who doesn't just desire you, but deserves you. The walls they've built are crumbling, the weight of everything unsaid pressing harder with every passing moment. And they know with a clarity that terrifies them that you won't wait forever. You never have, and you never will. The choice is theirs, but the clock is ticking, and the air between you feels like a storm about to break. They see the inevitability of it now, the moment where everything they've avoided, everything they've buried, demands to be faced. You are not a pause in their story, not a fleeting chapter they can close and move on from. You are a turning point, a crossroads that forces them to choose. They can feel the ground shifting beneath them, the weight of their hesitation pulling them down, and they realize that staying still is no longer an option. You are already moving, already stepping into the future with or without them, and the thought of losing you cuts deeper than any fear they've ever known. They can either leap, risk the fall, and embrace the unknown, or let you slip away, becoming a memory they'll carry but never touch again. There is no safety here, no halfway point to retreat to, only the courage to follow or the regret of watching you disappear. You felt the unraveling like a quiet storm, a force beyond your control, pulling you from what you thought was meant to be. At first, you searched for answers within yourself, wondering if you could have held on tighter, done more, been more. But then you realized this was not a loss, it was a release. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, stepped in to show you what your heart refused to see. This was not your weight to carry, not your battle to fight. Their hesitation, their fears, their unwillingness to step into the light with you were never a reflection of your worth. You were not made to dim your brilliance, to wait in the shadows for someone to find their way. You were made to rise, to move forward, to walk a path illuminated by your own strength. And if they cannot meet you there, if they cannot match the fire in your soul with one of their own, then they were never meant to walk beside you. This is not an ending, it is a beginning, a redirection to something greater, something worthy of you. They feel it now, the absence of you, like a shadow that follows them even in the brightest light. It's not the kind of loss that comes with closure, but the kind that lingers, a quiet ache that reminds them of what they let slip away. You were never meant to be a fleeting moment, a passing thought, they see that now. But realization comes too late, and the space you once filled has become a mirror reflecting their own hesitation, their own inability to rise to meet what you offered. You didn't leave out of spite or anger. You left because staying would have been a betrayal of yourself. You are not a waiting place, not a lesson they can learn at their leisure. You are a force, a movement, a truth that cannot be held by those who are not ready to embrace it. And now, as they sit with the weight of their inaction, they understand. You were never theirs to lose, because they were never ready to earn you. There comes a moment when they finally understand what it means to lose something irreplaceable, not because you were taken, but because you chose to leave. You've felt it before, that subtle shift in the air, the way their gaze lingers just a moment too long, heavy with the weight of what they can no longer touch. It's not pride that keeps you moving forward, nor is it indifference. It's the knowledge that you were never meant to stay in places where your worth wasn't seen in time. Watching them struggle with your absence isn't satisfying, it's sobering, a reminder that some lessons can only be learned through loss. And as you continue walking, steady and unshaken, you carry the quiet strength of someone who knows they are unforgettable, not because of what you've taken, but because of what you gave.